about cohabitation, and we're going to roll right into it this week. I think if I recall correctly, we did say we had 5 points, and we've got the what one? I think we did one last week, man. So that just kind of show what type of conversation this is going to be. So the title for today's show is cohabitation. Is it a relationship builder or a relationship breaker? But as you ponder that question, here is the problem. The problem, as we know it to be, is now I just want you to think about it for a second. Just kind of go back down memory lane with me for a minute. And with some of you, it might be, your reality right now. Imagine you being in a relationship, with this young lady or with this young man or whatever. And you guys, you just enjoying each other, sharing time together, spending time together, and just pretty much enjoying the moments in time. You get on the phone, you talk, and time just goes by effortlessly. You go to sleep thinking about each other, and you wake up thinking about each other, and you just get to the point where you spend, countless hours. You spend countless hours together, and then moving forward, you get to the point and say, "Hey, I don't want to be without this person." So you get to the point where you say, "You know what? Why don't we just move in together and just make it official?" And you do so, but then there's these other things, right? There's these other things that show up. You got family members who have an opinion. You got life that has an opinion. You got friends who have an opinion. You got finances that have an opinion. And so this can create a problem set. Now, if you, as you listen to this, if you fall in that category or have fallen in that category at any given point in time and can relate to what I'm saying, then trust me, this conversation is for you. And that's one of the main reasons why we created the Empowering Perspective membership program, to kind of uncover and unpack some of those things that we go through in life so that we can understand that there are several options that lie before you, so that you can get to the point of just, existing in space and living your best life regardless of what anybody else think. Now, that being said, we talked about some things, and we had 5 points, like I mentioned before. And the first point that we talked about already was expectation versus reality. And so, if you really want to see what that's all about, go back and look at last week's conversation. But we want to make sure that we understand it. That is one point. Point number two is pressure to marry. Point number three is boundaries and personal space. Four is the infamous financial disagreements. And five is the lack of legal protection. Now, I think it's important that we go over the scenario again, because we're going to use this scenario and just run with it all the way through. So, as a reminder, I want everybody to kind of, lean into the scenario. So, Emma and John, both in their late 20s, have been dating for a year. Given the amount of time they spent at each other's places, they decided it would be more practical and economical to move in together. They were excited about this new chapter and had visions of harmonious cohabitation filled with romantic dinners, movie nights, and deepening their bond. Their expectation was a shared living situation where both would contribute equally to the household chores and maintain a balanced lifestyle of work, personal hobbies, and shared activities. Emma envisioned John cooking dinner some nights, as he often bragged about his culinary skills during their dating phase, while John looked forward to enjoying Emma's penchant for organization and cleanliness, assuming that this would translate into a tidy shared living space. The reality, however, unfolded differently. John's work schedule was erratic and often kept him out late, leading Emma to take on the majority of cooking duties. While John did indeed enjoy cooking, he found himself too exhausted from work to contribute in the way Emma had anticipated. On the other hand, Emma's organizational skills were more focused on personal belongings and less on shared living spaces, leading John to feel frustrated about clutter in their shared areas. Their cohabitation started to feel less like a shared living experience and more like a series of unmet expectations. The discrepancy between their romanticized expectation and the reality of daily life started causing friction. Both started feeling discontent and resentful, leading to arguments that they hadn't anticipated when they decided to move in together. So, that being said, that takes us to our second talking point, which is pressure to marry. Now, the question, they're chomping at the bit already. Y'all check them out. Considering their cohabitation and the resulting challenges, how might external pressure to marry exacerbate the issues that Emma and John are currently facing?
I'll shoot it. I think right off the bat, they are noticing that they have some problems. They're noticing that everything ain't cracked up to what we thought it was going to be, and it's usually not because you like they in the pre honeymoon phase before they even was a marriage. So I think the challenge now, looking at whether or not they should be married and pressures from everybody else, I think they got to look within because everybody else got an opinion, but you don't live with this woman. And then we don't give you the real lowdown. We give you the living room version. We don't give you the bedroom version, the house version. So you don't know. I'm sick of coming home and not having a meal, and she, her friends don't know that. Hey, he said he can cook, but he don't really cook. He don't do nothing. He just come in talking about he tired, like I ain't been at work. So now instead of talking to one another, it seems like they might be talking to their friends and everybody else and not coming together saying how can we actually rectify these problems so that it can be to the betterment, not the detriment of said relationship, hopefully marriage.
I want to kind of take that point a little further, well, a little different, because you're 100% right. When you're dealing with someone that you're already experiencing issues with, right? And let's just say, you hear the Hispanic name, so they might be Catholic, right? High probability. Uh, so I don't necessarily have to talk to family, but mama might be like, "All right, you need to marry her. Y'all living together. Y'all doing this." And if they're very strong in their Catholic beliefs, there's going to be a lot of pressure to that from the parental side of it, right? And so for men sometimes, especially if his mama telling us we got to get right and we got to do things right, is that pressure to also make sure mama's happy, but there's that pressure of are we sure because we're dealing with issues, right? So I think it definitely exacerbates the scenario, the situation, because it's like, who do I please? And a lot of us can talk tough, but we all get into those moments in life where we lose sight of the fact that we have to make this decision together. And the outside influences, especially if we hold them in high regards, sometimes can hold weight on our mental, and we forget to handle the situation right. Then you jump out there and you bring up marriage, or you try to take it to the next level, and she's not sure. Now the conversations get deeper, the conversations get heavier. So it it can go so many ways in this scenario.
I'm gonna say something that Roland kind of talked about. We both kind of talked about family a little bit, the pressure from family, and I think that's true, especially when you have. I think that if you have some older adults in the family who are coming to these young people and saying, "Hey, maybe you guys should get married or something like that." I'm just using that. That may be an example. That may be something that's going on. If that's happening, then what they're doing is they're putting their image or their impression of what they see as marriage onto that couple. And that can feel like pressure because maybe they don't want that type of marriage, or maybe they're not really ready to get married yet. So I did want to say that, but I also kind of wanted to switch it and talk about the job. And I'm speaking from somebody who has been in the military, and there's pressure right there sometimes. I don't know how many times we've seen young soldiers come up. They have gotten somebody pregnant. This is not that situation, but what I'm saying is they find themselves in a situation to where they feel pressure from their job to get married. You know what I mean? And then now they end up in a situation where they may have gotten married too soon, or they may not have had certain conversations before they got married, which can lead to other problems down the road. So I think that, sometimes just external pressures like jobs and different things like that, like family can exact that word, the issues the Em and John are currently facing. You see, I had to look the word up, and that's why I put it in the chat.
No,
You had
you
to look
good,
it up.
man. You
I had to
good, bro.
look it up.
I just like to listen to you pronounce it. So I kind of want to go there because we're going to get to the family and the friends thing, right? But you mentioned job. So what kind of stress does job put on that on this what kind of stress does job see, I'm joking with you and now you see what
Instant,
happened with
yeah.
me, right? Payback, karma. So what
Instant.
type of stress does job put on them to kind of go ahead and tie the knot and get married?
Man, we all right now, we all soldiers, and I think is for me it's easier to hit that avenue for conversational purposes because where he took it is so real, especially with cohabitation. Because how many times do you see soldiers get married and the pressure may or may not be uh she got pregnant, maybe like coach said in the scenario, you love her so much and you can't live and think without her, but you can't cohabitate in the barracks, so you get married so you can get that BAH and y'all can move off post. Or you come up on orders and you can't PCS with her. She ain't on your orders. There's no benefit there. So you get married before you get the orders in hand so you can get the benefits. Or you're about to deploy and I don't want to deploy and not make you my wife. All these scenarios come up and sometimes in the military you see that more often than not being the driving force behind young marriages. And like coach says, sometimes you get married too fast because you're pressured behind the limitations that the job puts on you. And that's just from the soldier standpoint.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, and
Well,
just have go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say two incomes are always better than one. So a lot of times it's a contract marriage with benefits. So you thinking, okay, well, let's do this little legal contract, and we're gonna split the bills, and you got a plan in your head, and theoretically it's gonna work, but you're not taking into account her bad habits and spending, and then she got some problems, and she think, or his bad habits, and he want to hang out with the boys, or the new video game coming out, he want to buy this, and it's like, hold up, we married, but we not necessarily prepared for marriage.
And coach, yeah, back to the job thing, man. in their situations, I mean, it could be a number of different things. You know what I mean? It's like, sometimes we see other men who are successful, and a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times these guys are married. You know what I mean? If you look at the top of the ladder in corporate America, a lot of these guys are married. You don't see a bunch of single, CEOs and different things like, yeah, some of them get divorced and stuff like that. But what I'm saying is, in a lot of cases, these guys are married. So they look at, sometimes early on, because, if they're working together and they're trying to move forward, there may be the pressure to get married, and then, start life insurance and have kids early and trying to get some of those things knocked out early while they're young. So when they get older in age, they don't have to worry about doing this or doing that. So I think those are some of the pressure that can come along with the job.
Yeah, I like everywhere you guys went, to be honest, with this version of the conversation. I kind of want to add to what you guys are saying as well, because you hit the nail on the head. Two incomes are better than one. Gaddy, I'm with you, bro. Like, you in the army, you're not going to be shacking up. That's just not going to happen. And if you have a chain of command that really cares about you, they're probably talking some of the things that you don't want to hear. Like, how long have you known this young lady? How serious are you? All this good stuff. But then there's this other thing that they call benefits. Those benefits are significant. You know what I'm saying? I'm just being honest. And so what you'll end up experiencing, that you have internal pressure between both. Let's just use Emma and John here. Emma may be pressuring John, if John is a soldier, that, hey, we're together, we're doing all this, we're living like a family, but I'm just out here, flapping in the wind. Like, if something happened to me, and I'm just out here on my own, and you good, you got all the benefits, you get to go to the hospital and the dentist and all that good stuff for free, but I'm over here spending hundreds of dollars and whatever. So that becomes another stress point that exists within that household as well, and that could be an additional pressure that goes along with this. Now, let's talk about the family, because Gaddy, you said um, Catholic, and I agree, but I don't want to limit it just to them, because we do the same thing. Trust me, I got a phone call about 6 o'clock in the morning. back in 1990. I ain't gonna tell you what year it is. Stay out my business. But I got a phone call like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm half asleep, and I'm trying to figure out why is this dude calling me this early? And he asked me straight up, say, "So when you and my daughter get married?" I'm like, "It's 6 o'clock in the morning, bruh. I mean, couldn't this like a wait at noon or something?" So I just kind of want to throw that out there. When we, because let's be honest, you got a daughter, you got daughters, you got all boys. I got two girls. So that phone call I received at 6 o'clock in the morning, fast forward, could be the same phone call that I actually make as well because I have a concern. So, your thoughts when it comes down to the pressures that parents, not just parents, but we ain't gonna talk to the friends yet, just the parents and the family members. Your thoughts on their pressures?
I would say
Pressure.
pressure.
Go
I can
ahead.
say I would say pressure can come in just something as simple as how you were raised, or you know what I mean? What example did you see? Did your parents get married or did they get divorced? I think sometimes when not all the times, but I think there is something to be said for parents who may grow up in a single home that may want to get married because they may be not the worst orphan, you know what I mean? So they may have been abandoned as a child or something like that. So they want to be married. You know what I mean? So I think that could be one of the things right there.
I think as a father of a bunch of girls, and I still feel like this, I don't want my girls just chilling with some dude where he gonna use her up, and because I, as a person who's been a user, and then like, okay, when I'm done, okay, next. So I never wanted that to be my baby. So I would tell him, hey, my baby, she ate while she was here. She got all her whoopings while she was here. If you can't provide for her, send her back home. But taking her, you take on the responsibility that I have. So as a father, I want you to fully cover her because I don't want to use, that's just our makeup because we know how we've seen and we've done. So we don't want that to happen to our babies.
Oh, yeah. Both of you brothers are spot on, right? When I look at the parental influence alone, or even siblings, right, family, whatever, it can be. I normally say family advice, if handled incorrectly, is normally bad because you a lot of times you hold certain people in your family of high regard, so you do what they say without consideration of your reality, right? Um, and I'm not saying parents are bad people. That's not what I'm saying. But it's how we sometimes process or perceive. I mean not Coach Onk hit on the fact that just being raised a certain way, so you have an expectation of your parents to react a certain way. So you jump out there and you move without, once again, accepting your reality of the situation first. And sometimes you have people out there that's like, it's better not to. You got those family members that all think that they street philosophers. Well, it's better not to marry, because you got this benefit. So let me explain how it go, nephew. And they give you some terrible advice. And that hurts more than it helps because if you don't take the time to sit down and process everything that you received and then bring that to your partner, right? Because and it becomes taboo because I think half the problem is when it comes to marriage, women expect men to surprise them with some fancy uh engagement. And what that tends to do to young men, you ignore the responsibility of having a conversation with her before that because you want to shock her with the marriage proposal. So you don't want to have the marriage talk early. And so a lot of things get pushed out the window. So when I'm looking at family, it could be pressure depending on what level of esteem you hold that person to. So I say take it all in. It could be good advice, it could be bad advice, but process it and then bring it forth to your partner.
What you got on? I know you want to kind of clean up what you said earlier. Go ahead.
Yeah, we were just, talking about this. Me and my sister earlier, we were talking about, family and stuff like this. And, sometimes feeling pressure from family, like I mentioned before, just from how we were raised. I didn't grow up thinking about marriage at all, you know, but I did grow up not wanting to be like my father. So it causes me to act a certain way. So like, when children are raised a certain way, I think, and they look at their parents and they just have a perception of what marriage is. They don't know, and they may react just based off of that, and that can be a lot of pressure, you know what I mean? Because if you were like an orphan or something like that, and you was from home to home to home to home, it's like, man, somebody like, hey man, you should, go on and get married. It's like I can understand feeling that pressure or even that internal pressure to want to go ahead and get married for security reasons, for comfort, for the fear, you know what I mean, for the simply for the fact that this may be a solution to my problem. I'll never have to feel alone again, So I think pressure can come just from simply how you were raised. And it's nothing bad on a parent. It just can be based off the situation that you're in and how it carries over into your adult life.
Yes, I like it. I want to kind of touch on something that you guys mentioned. Gaddy, I like where you went, and where you went was so profound. I don't even want to touch that right now. But but listen, when I listen to Unk and I listened to Roland just now, what I heard is projection. So I heard three things. I heard projection on one hand. I heard impression coming from Gaddy. And Unc, I kind of lost where you was at for a second. Give me a second to come back to me. So let's talk about projection real quick. Real quick. Do you think it is not a good idea to project my past experiences on my child? Like knowing what I did growing up, knowing Roland, you said I was a user. So knowing the things that we did growing up, because everybody did it, and we nobody innocent, right? Knowing the things that we did, through our younger years, our immature years, do you think that we may look at them and try to project the things that we did, and we have this sense of like we want to protect them from people like us? Not who we
I
are now,
think
who we used to be.
right. I think we do, but I think to have a well-rounded viewpoint, you need all the views: the good, the bad, the bums, the not so bum. You need all of it because you can say, okay, I can see that, and because hopefully you raise a child that can intellectually think for themselves and not just take your word at everything. Because sometimes we will raise kids where, hey, it's this way, it's this way. No, it's not that way. I got to be able to think. I mean, I can't just go into a relationship thinking that everybody gonna be horrible because everybody was horrible to you, because that's like all these people get online. They talking about all these red flags. Like you missed a lot of red flags, and you got a lot of red flags, and that's a red flag. So it's like, when people be doing that, I'm like, y'all just asinine out here, really, and y'all just keep on perpetuating it and passing this on. That's what people do with the generational thing because they pass their views on. I try not to pass a view. I tell you what I think. You don't have to take it, but it's like, hey, take it, put it in your pocket for later. It might come up, but this is my view.
I think you pass certain things on, and I think certain things you hold on to. I think it's good to be transparent about certain things if they're going to provide a certain type of lesson or something behind it. Is it a teaching point? You know what I mean? And I think in those cases, it's okay. I don't think you should reveal the beans about everything. Maybe at a certain point at a certain time, you can maybe go into more in depth about certain situations. But I think is you have to have balance. I think you can look at certain things and impart your wisdom, but I also think that it's okay and that maybe you should share with the child. Say, hey, you know what? This is what I understand it. I remember when I was 20 years old. I get it. However, this is how I think right now. When I was 20 years old, these decisions in a lot of cases can lead to A, B, and C. At the end of the day, you're a grown man, young guy, and you're gonna have to make your own decisions, and you have to be able to deal with them, any consequences, good or bad, that come from the decisions you make. But I think it's okay to share, but at the same time, caveat and understand that I'm older now and I don't think like that. I understand where you're coming from. At the end of the day, you got to make your own decision. But I'm going to give you some tools or some information to help you make the decision, or to help you help you make the decision, because you may be thinking one way, and I'm going to shed some light on it from a different perspective, from my experience in my 40 something plus years and knowing you as my child, that I'll give you some of it, be transparent, and then allow them to make the decisions.
Now, my take on this, remember, I'm the young parent, so I listen to some of you older folks, and I try to weave out what y'all say are y'all mistakes and gather my opinion of parenting based upon that, right? But with saying that, my son will be 12 in 3 weeks, right? I decided for myself that at that age, there's some things that I'm going to teach him how to do. I'm going to teach him skills. Any skills that I have and I've learned, I'm going to pass them on. I'm also going to attempt to be purposeful about gathering new skills to teach him things that I felt like I probably should have learned as a young man. But I want to give him tools for decision making. I don't want to be his decision maker or make him feel as if I'm trying to be. And I think as parents, we do well if we give them what we have as tools to make decisions, right? You're not going to tell, because if you project the fact that you used to be a user on your daughter, all men are now users. Not maybe not, but a lot of times we see that. So all men are users, all men like this, because my daddy was like that, and my daddy's a great man. So if he was like that, I know you Negroes are like, and that I think that comes from projection versus tools. Be mindful of men who do this. I used to hear the older women, my aunts and grandparents' age used to tell the women, be careful of a man that always talking slick and smooth. He may seem like the nice guy, but he's just better at the game than the other guys. And so she had tools. She knew that not all guys were slick and smooth and trying to get her, but she knew to be careful of those guys. And I think if they would have took the approach and said, hey, now I done had men trying to use me, and I had men trying to abuse me, and I had men trying to do this. Men to do this if you let them. Men to do this. So that's projection, and now they have a concept that men, and so now they go through life in fear of being used instead of in watch for the enemy at work.
I like that. I agree 100%, and I like the fact you brought the other side of the equation to the conversation as well. Now let's transition again, and before we do so, man, listen, for you guys who are in the audience, thank you so much for being here. Again, we see your messages, and they're about to come to the stage here shortly. But I kind of want to beat this real good before we start bringing in your comments, because I'm seeing you guys hitting some home runs as well. So I see you. I just want to make sure I acknowledge you. Secondly, go ahead and hit the like button wherever you are. Whatever platform you're on, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, go ahead and hit the like button. If you feel so inclined, go ahead and hit the hearts as well. We like hearts. Just because we men, that don't mean we don't like hearts. Okay, so if you like it, then you better put a ring on it. So Emma girlfriend chirping in her ear. They done been together for like 6-7 months. Y'all living together. How you gonna give him the milk? I can't remember how to say it. You know what I'm talking about. How you just gonna get to him, what I'm saying, have him live in, but he ain't made no commitment. He can up and leave you at any given point in time. Like, I mean, what are y'all doing? He should have married you by now. What's wrong with you? Your thoughts?
They might not know their daughter. They might not know she's the one, she the ringleader with that thing. And I think what happens is a lot of people, this is for single men, if you ever take your woman to a wedding, trust me, this conversation is coming up because she gonna see them dresses and she gonna see all this pageantry and stuff like that. and she gonna see the ring, and she gonna see all this stuff. Next thing you know, she gonna be like, and she gonna be burning a hole in your head while you watching ESPN. And then you go like, you want to talk? She's like, no, I don't want that. But she gonna keep saying little stuff. She gonna walk in the kitchen and say little stuff. So make sure that you talk, you communicate. Say, hey, because you never want to be pressured into a situation. Like if this is what you want, hey, say whether it's what you want or not. You might not want that with her. You might not see her like that. She may not see you like that. It's not always on the male. The female may not see you like that. So you want to make sure you have these conversations to where everything is talked about, and things may change along the way. And as they change, communication still is in effect.
So I think I got a question, rather, because Roland did bring up something that kind of played in my head, and so my question is, can sometime that inspiration be gathered by the guilt of the situation, right? Because we already living together, we already sleeping together, we already this together, we already doing that together, and then we get to this beautiful wedding. I should be here. Our relationship needs to go here. Versus if we keep if we keep our relationship at its proper place for its current position, then would some of that, and I don't know, I'm asking the question, would some of that, push away, she'll still like to be married one day, but she won't think of it in a way to have to pressure you if you don't take it that far already, because I know we're talking about, all right, you already cohabitated, but what if you don't?
What is the question? I want to make sure that we answer the question.
My bad. So the question is sometimes that pressure put on because we allowed the relationship to move forward, because we cohabitated, and so she feels like, since we're already here, why aren't we here?
I think women are always ready for marriage. To me, this is my opinion. We got to throw that out there. Men get married because she want to get married. And the only time a man want to get married is when he say, that's the one right there. I want to marry her right there. If a man ain't said that to you, if you say it, he may say, okay, cool. And then time done went by, you done had 15 kids or something, but it wasn't his idea. Because think about it, when y'all played with dolls when y'all were little, I say it funny. Ken and Barbie were getting married. Boys were being managed. So then when he gets with you, he wants the benefits of the managedness. You thinking he's Prince Charming, and you saying, okay, well, I'm going to change him and I'm going to do this, that, and the other. So when it all comes down to it, it's your idea, but the pressures come from everywhere else. So he's looking at it like, okay, yeah, it's about time. I got to make an honest woman out of her and all this other stuff. So at the end of the day, it's about standards. What standards do you want to set?
I like it. What you got on? Looks like I ain't touching it.
I got nothing. I've been listening.
I'm gonna go a different route. I'm just totally opposite, 180 degree. I am going to say it like this. I don't think the act of the wedding itself invoked any guilt. I think the act of the wedding only revealed what was already there the whole time. I think this was probably something that was lingering in the back of that person's head and just was waiting for the right time to have the conversation, or they had the conversation and the conversation didn't go over well. So now going to the wedding, right? Going to the wedding just revealed the exact same thing that has already been there. Um, I think that happens a lot as well. I do agree with Roland here, but I also will add to what he said. A lot of time men get married out of responsibility as well, especially if there's a child involved. Like they feel like that's what I'm supposed to do because of a lot of a lot of information that they heard and or seen in their childhood rearing days. Um, so I think all of those things come to bear, And then when you start packing on these friends on the outside who has an opinion, that man, kind of starts to feel a particular type of way and starts to, and I think Roland touched on it, that man may start to feel pressured because of all of the outside little nitnoid influences, comments, all this other good stuff. And then you don't know what happens when they go home and close the door at night, because now all of that's been in her ear and you didn't respond to what she said. And now you're making me feel like I'm not the one, like Roland said. So I think all of this stuff starts to compound. And I think Cassandra mentioned, don't factor in church, because I don't know what it is. If a man and a woman is together, somebody at some point is going to say, "Hey, y'all married? Is y'all married? When y'all get married? Y'all look so good together. When you get married, baby, you know what I'm saying? Y'all look good." Go ahead, bro.
I'm about to say, and you only bought it at church twice.
That's it. That's it. Who your people is?
I think I don't know if it's the right place, but I think some pressure and just an external pressure can be time, just simply time. I think you've been together 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 9 years, 10 years, still ain't got married. Now people like, dang, y'all still together? Y'all ain't got married yet? After 10 years? So it's like, I think that can add some pressure on people sometimes, just marriage in general.
Well,
I mean,
I had an uncle and auntie. They were together my whole life. I didn't know they weren't married till he died. That's when I found out they weren't married. I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm.
It's been my uncle my whole life. Then he died. That was his girlfriend. But we allow people to put their parameters on us and what they believe and how they see it should go. If it's working, why am I going to break it just because you want me to get this piece of paper? That's the same reason why I got a fishing license. But why should I have to go get a fishing license if I just want to throw a pole in and catch some fish and eat?
So you don't go to jail.
What? Yeah, exactly. So I won't go to jail because the system says
Right.
we got to monetize everything.
Yeah.
So they monetize marriage, they monetize the wedding, they put TV shows out. Now she's Bridezilla, and you sitting over there just go to the end, stand there when she come, say I do, jump over this broom and kick rocks.
And then when she ain't happy, she gonna divorce you.
And take half.
Take half.
Not Bridezilla. And for the record, you won't go to jail if you get caught fishing without a fishing license. You'll just be fined.
You get fined.
And they might take all your stuff too.
Yeah, they do take all your stuff.
But
I got my license.
Unc said something, right? Pressure of time. That one is rough for me. And I'm gonna tell you why. Cause of Roland's story, I know I don't have an aunt and uncle like that, but I know a bunch of old folks in the neighborhood, back in the hood like that, and I'm just a firm believer, especially if you cohabitated together. If you and this man been together for 2 years and living together for 2 years, and he ain't asked you to marry him, he ain't concerned about what you concerned about. You went through, it might be the whole I ain't finna go down there and get him my money. We married. It might be that, you got those, but it could also be, I'm comfortable and I ain't trying to really, I can leave when I want, I can come back when I want. You ain't my wife. I can say that to you. And sometimes women, you got to be able to put that progression of the relationship to a limit. So that joker know, hey, if you want this, if you want all of it, all the benefits, you got to do what you got to do. Because once you
agree,
that's the cow in the milk, huh?
Yeah, in the milk. You can't have a cow nor the milk.
That's why you date with intent. If you know you're a woman and you want to be married, only date men who want to be married. If you are a man and you want to be married, only date women who want to be married. It's that simple. Well, it's not that simple. That's the start of the process. That's the beginning of the elimination process. Do not get on the same path with someone who has visions of going down a different path. If one want to be married and one don't, nobody ain't going to change nobody else. You cannot change her. and you cannot change him.
But that's not most of the conversation. Most of the conversation, how much money you make, what you do for a living, do you want kids, do you want to be with somebody for the rest of your life? Do you think you can only be with me? We don't ask those questions until next you done gave up the cookies, and now the cookie monster wants some more cookies. So now it's like, hold up, what are we doing? Are we sitting up here saying this is us and we're growing together and we're building our team, or are we saying we just gonna do this for now and see how it play out, and then we're gonna do a Russell Wilson, we're gonna kick you to Denver?
Yeah. I got all that. Y'all want my opinion, join the program. I teach a whole class on it. So you listen, not only you'll get my opinion, you'll get the process to make it work. I'm just saying. Let's kind of dive into these chats, these messages in the chat, man, because they're putting up. Let's start with Crystal's question. She had a question, Unc. I know you put in there, you asked her to clean it up. Not clean it up, but kind of add a little context. And there you go. So you all were saying how you would talk to your daughters and want the young man to do the right thing. I want my son to do the right thing with the lady he lives together with and have 2 kids. And I think her previous question was, how do I talk to my son?
You know, took the question away.
Yeah, I'm about to say, go back to the other one, the second one or the first. Yeah.
That one, yeah.
Chris, I think you stumped him.
Now, the right thing is your perception of the right thing, is your view of what the right thing is for them. It may not be the right thing. You want him to say, hey, you got these kids with her, you got this, hey, you got it, this is your one, where they may not be fitly joined together. They just been joining together, but they may not be the ones that for life. They might not be lifers simply because they are common to one another. So you may need to talk with your son. I would. And you also need to talk with the girl too, because you have to, somebody got to have an understanding of where they're going. And you may be that person to say, hey, what you doing? He may have your views and your values also, since you raised him. So you may be able to talk to him and say, hey, this is how I believe things should go. This is how I see marriage. And he may be like, I don't see it like that. And then you can come to a common understanding of how one another sees it. That way you can see if he's wasting this girl's time, wasting his own time, and prepared to damage these 2 children.
Crystal, thank you for your comment. I mean, your question. I look at it like this: when this is not an attack on you, but it says, "I want my son to do the right thing." Or what determines what the right thing is? You know, I'm not here to give you necessarily an answer. I would just say, hey, think about that. Who decides what the right thing is for your son?
Man, that's a good point. Both are good points, but I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. He's 32 years old, and in the words of the poet Kevin the Heart, say it with your chest. Just he's 32. His mind is conditioned. He operates how he operates. He moves how he moves. He is who he is, and there's no way to re-raise him. You just gotta tell him what you gotta tell him, but understand he's 32, and in his mind, he might not say it to you, but in his mind, he's gonna say, I'm a grown man, and he's gonna do what he's gonna do, right? But I think the question is, how do we start? How do you work on helping him change his mindset? You know, because sometimes is what we see and what we saw growing up. If I didn't see marriage, or if I didn't like the marriages I saw, I'm not really in a rush to head to marriage, you know. So that could be a factor. Or you could have taught them good stuff, but the dudes and his influence and his social media and his TV shows all told him to be something else. And so we want them to do the right thing, but it's kind of like, what are the conditions that have been set for his mental upbringing, right? In and out of the home, not just in the home, but in and out of the home. So at 32, only thing you can really do is just tell him what you got to tell him. Say what you got to say. Hey, son, you living foul, bro, and just let it be what it is.
I think Gaddy went somewhere because I think that a lot of us, most of us, we didn't grow up seeing healthy marital relationships. We seen grandpa had a family on the east side, daddy had kids down the street. These people live together, but they ain't get along the whole time they live together. So we seen a lot of unhealthy relationships, and that may turn us away. That may turn people away, saying, "Man, I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I want to do it."
Yeah. So my response to this, totally different. I think a lot of times what you see that manifests in a person's behavior is only the result of something else, right? So instead of talking to him about her, talk to him about him, right? Find out what he wants to do with his life. Find out where he wants to go. Like ask him about go back because I know you're in the program. Go back and look at the goal setting conversations that me and the brothers had, and ask him what is his goals in life. Like what is it that you what is your ultimate goal? Like what do you aspire to be? And then ask him to paint that entire picture, not just what the end goal is. Like when he paints the picture of that end goal, what is the ecosystem of that goal? Does it include a wife? You see what I'm saying? That's something that you might want to get him to define. And I'm very cautious with telling you exactly what to do or how to do. That's why I say talk directly to him about him and his life and where he's going and things of that nature. Everything else that involves that is surrounding him, right? When he starts looking at goals and growth and all of that other good stuff, those things will either fall in line and become a part of him. I think the example I used during our conversation was the space shuttle. They will be the booster rockets and either fall off or they're going to ride him all the way to the finish line. And he is going to have them along with the ride because he wants them there, not because he feel compelled to keep them there, not because he feel pressured or anything of that nature. I think my point is that you don't want to be in a place where he feels like you're pressuring him and then he withdraws from you. That's to me, that's the biggest thing for me. And I think that gets after everything these brothers just said. There's a way of saying a thing without necessarily saying a thing, right? You can have a conversation specifically to him, and he will define what the outside resources look like. So I hope we answered your question. And if we did not, by all means, reshape it, redirect it, whatever the case may be. Yeah, so let's just go down the start line, and we'll see what we got from there. No? All right. So moving moving on to the next point. Moving on to the next point. I think we beat that one enough. Moving on to the next point. The next point is boundaries and personal space. Now, Bernadette, this is not your the response to what you said. We're gonna do a whole conversation about boundaries. But this one in this particular scenario, boundaries and personal space, right? So living together can blur the lines of personal space, which can potentially lead to conflicts. So the question that I have for you, in what ways, right? In what ways could Emma and John have established boundaries regarding their individual responsibilities and personal space to better accommodate their differing work schedules and lifestyle habits?
I think you got to be real. I think you can't sit up there, because dudes, I know I'm a dude. So dudes like to cook for the girl and woo the girl. You do all this wooing stuff, and once you get in the crib, you like sitting back, like, okay, what we eating? It's like, dude, you ain't King Joffrey up in here. So sometimes you both parties aren't real. They giving that facade of what the other person wants. Oh, we gonna do this, and she got on the doggone negligee, but then come there, you got the moo on. So now he got in his head like it's gonna be like this every day. No, this ain't the real me. See, and that's why I think that if you upfront and real, say, hey, we gonna actually have to have days where we cook for one another. We gonna have to have days where, hey, because I done told you, Dwayne, I cook one day, leftovers tomorrow.
Right.
Because I'm the cook, leftovers tomorrow. We eat leftovers in this house. If you want something for lunch, you better make a sandwich or something. Because if you eat your leftovers, I ain't making nothing else for you. But you got to be straight up and don't worry about hurting feelings when you showing the real you.
Yeah, simply have conversations. That's how easy it is. It sounds easy in theory, but it's a lot more difficult and challenging, and sometimes people just don't do it, but if they were like Roland was saying, if y'all had that conversation at the beginning before y'all decided to move in, hey, this is what my roles are going to be, this is what your roles are going to be. Like Roland said, you don't like that, okay, let's adjust this right here. Let's both input, what are our finances going to look like? You know what I mean? What if I'm making $70,000 a year and you're making $40,000 a year? Are we still going 50-50, or are we going to, decide to have this going to go off percentages? You know what I mean? So, all of those things come into play. What if we slip up and, someone gets pregnant or something, so have all of these conversations and put in situations and backup plans just in case certain things may come up. So all of that boils down to having conversations and having effective conversations about the plan and the issues going forward and how you guys want the relationship to work.
Did you say slip up and get pregnant? I just want to make sure I heard you right. Okay.
Yeah, when you're young, that's usually how it happens. You know what I'm saying?
I think Eddie Murphy made a joke about that years ago. Get what you got, bro.
Man, I was glad. I was hoping to keep going because I was warned against two different responses I want to give to this. And I'm gonna use Coach's line. I'm gonna save one for the program. I'm gonna use the one I like for right now. Sometimes things are said, you just missed it, and I'm just being 100. Sometimes we say things and you heard the part you wanted to hear, and the rest, men and women, they said it, they showed you what they're about. Man, I remember telling my wife one time about my upbringing, just sharing with her some things that I did and how I was raised. And then when we got married, it was like, well, why do you do this thing with you? I told you how I handle this. This is me 100%. And don't get me wrong, it don't mean that that both parties still don't put on a facade in some shape or form. But the reality is sometimes you just miss things that were said. And I think in this situation, it could have been, he could have been like, hey, yeah, I don't cook all the time, but I can cook. Just to let you know, I can cook. And that whole part of I don't cook all the time went all the way back here. And all you heard was, but I can cook. You missed when Roland said I eat leftovers for 2 days. He didn't say 2 days, but I'm just putting that in there. But you just caught the part when he said I cook. And then you had in your mind all the things he was going to cook, how you was not going to have to cook at all in this. And he didn't have expectations of you to do the traditional wifely things. And no, he did. He just likes to cook. Right? You missed that part of the conversation, and vice versa. That's all I got for that point.
Man, listen, I'm with you, bro. Like you was in my head just now. Like I'm sorry, sometimes you got to stop the movie that's playing in your head so you can hear what the other person is actually saying. I think a lot of times we do that, and I'm glad you say both men and women do it because you're absolutely correct. Sometimes you will, and again, it's also a manifestation of your lack of communication skills as well, because you would hear one thing and run straight to the mountaintop of that one thing, but you missed the entire sentence. And he or she was going somewhere with that sentence, but you heard the first thing and then you fixed your mind on that. I think what everybody said in the beginning is absolutely right. Bad news don't get better with time, right? You may know I like to cook, but That's because I live in a house by myself or whatever. So that's why I cook. But at the end of the day, I don't want to cook every day. In fact, I'll be honest with you, I don't cook every day. So we get together, Emma. I'm just gonna tell you the truth. Yeah, I can cook. I'm mean on the grill, but I ain't firing the grill up every weekend. I'm just gonna tell you the truth. I'm being honest, straight up. Like you can say I like you when you barbecue. Okay, I'll let you know the next time I barbecue. That's it. I think too many times people, and this is don't repeat after me because it's the worst phrase on the planet. People are afraid to tell their truth. I'm sorry. I hate that. It just felt bad me saying that. People are afraid to be transparent with the other person about what they're thinking. That's the truth because of a fear that may exist that this person may not like it. They may get upset and they may not want to be around me any longer after that. Grow up. It's not that bad. It's not that serious. If that person don't want to be around you because of one thing that you tell them about your lifestyle, how you envision the future, whatever the case may be, and trust me, that person didn't really want to be with you anyway. They wanted to be with you because of something about you, not necessarily you. So I think that's the key. I think going back to what everybody said, and I see the chats, they're blown up with it as well. I think people have to learn to be transparent in conversation. Do not, I'm gonna say it again, do not have the conversation and then let them figure out who you are en route. It will not work out well. You're probably going to end up getting to the point where you're walking down the aisle saying I do, and then 6 months later you're going to wake up and say, "What the devil did I get myself into?" And that's what John and Em, I believe, is actually facing. So, Gaddy, thank you, bro, because you was all in my head just now. And listen, I know we're talking about the program. Look up on your screen. Look at the join button. Click the join button. Join the program. I'm telling you, when we have programs, they're the program conversations, they're different than this. I'm telling you, we're going into detail and giving processes on how to do certain things as well. So let's see what is happening in the chats. I need to let me hear from somebody who I heard from. Nick D. Man, just communicate and be truthful. It could all be so simple, but you rather make it hard. Yeah, because my feelings are all involved. I don't want to be completely absolutely. So thank you for that, Nick. I agree with you 100%. Be open about what the other expects of the other. The other expects of it. Okay. Yeah, be open of expectations. Be open about expectations. Rolling in his moo right? Rolling that moo back in the day made 8 to 14. Lord, go put some clothes on. Stop walking around that moo on. You know what I'm saying? You got other stuff in there. Then gonna mess around and walk outside and get the mail. What's wrong with you? Okay. Joyce, welcome. Joyce Denise, welcome to the show. I lived and married. I lived and married my total opposite. We made it work. He picked up where I lacked, and vice versa. He never came home from work. He never came home from work. I think she without a meal. If I cooked or ordered out, I had a full-time job. That's what I'm talking about, Joyce. Figure out a way to make it work. Once you make that decision, you just lean forward in the decision that you make. I like it. All right, where we going next? Yes, you cannot make someone want to marry you if it's not what they want to do. Yeah, and I agree. And I'm telling you, man, oh my God, we talked in detail about this. So yeah, I'm telling you, do yourself a favor, join the program, man. I think you'll learn something. And the key is there is something that you're missing before you even need to talk about marriage. Communication is the key. Lay it on the line at the very beginning. I agree with that. Like, hey, how you doing? My name's Wayne. Let's talk. Let's talk turkey. Like, didn't Eddie Murphy do that on Life? My name Ray Gibson. Let's talk turkey. That's what. Listen, do that. It's okay if they don't like what they hear. Go someplace else and shop. It ain't that bad. Um, Not something all the time. I'm a good listener now because I was not always there. Listen, I think we all struggled. I don't care who you are. I think everybody struggled with listening to a certain degree. And here's the reality of the truth. You're only good at listening right now to know that you can be better at listening. Nobody, no one, I don't care who you are, we all, and I'm not talking to you, Lisa, I'm talking to everybody. We all may think we're pretty good listeners today. That's only because we're older and more mature. But guess what? We still can improve with listening. So I think that's important for us to keep in mind and digest. I agree with him. Listen to what a person says the first time is truth. Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate that. I think we cover all of them? Yeah, I think we did. Okay. We might be able to get 3 in today, gentlemen. This is good. Okay. Moving on to the next topic, which is financial Oh yeah, the wheel's about to fall off the bus. Financial disagreement. All right. Managing shared finances can be complex. Disagreements may arise over income, spending habits, bill sharing, savings, and especially if the partners have different views on money management. Uncle June, you heard me on Wednesday, bro. Question, gentlemen. Given their differing work schedules and responsibilities at home, how could financial disagreements emerge between Emma and John, and what preventative measures could they take? Open the doors of the church, please.
The simple answer is conversations. That's the simple answer, but I don't want to make it simple. Because if it was that simple, we wouldn't even be here having a conversation. Because if it was that simple, we would be able to talk about everything and we would be able to solve all of our problems before we all get married, and we wouldn't be divorced and different things like that. So if you don't have conversations, you end up in the exact situation or a similar situation or worse that Emma and John are in. With different work schedules, there have to be structures and procedures or different things put in place so the slack can be picked up in other areas where the other person may be at work. If somebody don't like to cook and clean, well, how can we mitigate this? Maybe somebody's willing to work a part-time job, Ubering or something like that, to pay for somebody to come in and clean up. I'm just saying there are other options out there that you can choose and pick and choose. There are other options and different things that you can do out there to help mitigate some of the confusion and some of the disagreements that you have when it comes to the finances and different things like that. So being able to because what could happen is like what they're in right now, to where they get so deep into the game and the financial conversation hadn't been had. And then now what could potentially happen is that financial burden could fall down on one person. So what an example could be is they're working, they're fine. She's really good with her money, but they haven't been talking about anything. And John is really bad with his money. He just been spending and every different thing like that. And now all of a sudden she's thinking that he's paying this bill and this paying, and he's not. He's been out drinking or out at the club or whatever, or shooting craps behind the work. I don't know. What I'm saying is he's not as good with his money. And then now all of a sudden the rent is due, or there's a phone call, and now we're 3 months behind. And she's like, oh, what the heck? We haven't been doing good with the money. So if you don't have these conversations and there's not some sort of transparency when it comes to the finances and the books and people's spending habits, then you can have huge issues. And a lot of marriages, as we know, the data's out there, a lot of marriages end based off of financial disagreements.
I think what you're going to find that this should have been a separate conversation. Question, before we turn these two brothers loose. What is that financial conversation like? What should we be talking about?
We talking about the now, 10 years from now, and even all the way up into the end of the road. But probably at that age, they're probably not thinking about all of that. So I would say at least at that age, they're at least talking about a budget or how to manage their money for the next 3 to 5 years, if nothing else.
Okay.
When I was younger, I used to tell people that I was terrible with money without telling them I was terrible with money, because I didn't know what terrible with money or good with money looked like, because I gave them the answer right here. And I grew up poor. It's my first real job. It's my first time having money. And what that translated to, I didn't have experience with money, and I didn't come from people who had experience with money. So that financial literacy wasn't passed down to me. And I think, and that's just one of those things that are not said, but is a key, right? And so what we have to do when we hear little keys like that, you got to start asking questions. That's how the conversation initiates sometimes. Because I can't, and I hear everybody, right? What you're saying, but I can't have a conversation that I'm not aware needs to be had, because I'm thinking, maybe I just don't make enough money. That's why it ain't enough money to go around, right? this is why I wanted to live. I grabbed it. I didn't really do a budget on how much money I need for this, that, and the third, because I never had to. When I first joined the Army, I ain't had to pay rent. I ain't had to set aside a food budget. Man, I worked at a movie theater, a car wash, and a fast food restaurant. I ate at the fast food restaurant and took food with me for lunch at the car wash. I didn't like not being funny, but not being funny. This is something that I didn't know was a problem. I just knew there was never enough money in my account. I didn't know it was because I just sucked at money. And sometimes we skip past these signs. If you grew up poor and you finally came into some money, well, how are we going to handle these finances? Have you ever made a budget? Do you have a budget? Ask these questions that initiates these conversations, and then you'll learn that this person don't really know what you're talking about. And if you come from money, or if you have financial literacy, or you've had money for a little while, long enough to learn what bad habits look like, you can now be that backbone in that part of the relationship that helps me understand how to manage money. Because if you wait until we get together and I start jacking up money, the conversation is going to go different. The conversation is going to go, where all the money go? All right, my bad. I'm not going to do the black girl impression version. If I wait till we get together, and my bad, bro. If I wait till we get together and you start spending all the money, it's going to look like, hey, what's going on? It's how much money we should have. Where the money go? It's all we had, and it's not going to be a conversation no more. It's going to be a fussing match, because now I'm frustrated and I'm mad because we live together and we ain't got enough money to pay our bills, and we make too much money for that. So yes, we need to have the conversation, but sometimes you have to be able to look for those clues that this conversation needs to be had, because I just don't know enough about money to know that the conversation needs to come up. It's never been an issue in my household.
And you don't know what you don't know. So I think that we have money to buy everything else that we want, but we don't have money when it comes to financial literacy. And people give out free classes. You looking at Dr. Boyce Watkins, he give out free information, and other people give out free information. You can buy books, you can learn things, you can find people that will have classes on budgeting and such. So I think young people, they just need to get their priorities straight. If you get your priorities straight, then you prioritize learning more about finances. Because I'm looking for another job. Why you need another job? Because I need more money. Money to do what? All you're gonna do is get more money, and then you're gonna spend more money, because you don't know that the use of money ain't just to spend and blow on your little frivolous things. So I think what they should do is look into some type of financial literacy and have somebody sit down with them and talk to them before, like while they're having the conversation. That should be one of the first conversations that people should have, because at the end of the day, a lot of people say, well, we need a 2-income family, because they looking off the way society says you need 2 cars, you need the big house with the picket fence and all this other stuff, where you don't necessarily need that, but they said you need it. So now you put that on yourself. So now you say, I got to get another job. I got to go Uber sometime, and I got to go do this, and I got to do that. You killing yourself, you working yourself to death, and you're not building your marriage. You just building your bank account to spend on some other stuff that you don't need.
Well, I would like to take the opportunity to welcome our younger brother from another mother, Chris, from across the table. Chris, welcome to this evening's conversation, sir.
Greetings. My apologies for my tardiness. Today was rough.
Got it, man.
Today was rough.
You good. I appreciate the heads up. So we talking about monies, right? Kind of sounded
boy.
that. I know, right? I notice I haven't
monies?
said anything. We're talking about monies. So I asked the question in the chat, and I
Easy.
kind of want to, you got to say it like dollar bill. I asked a question in the chat. At what point do we have the money conversation? Do we have it in the beginning? Do we have it when we decide that we're going to get serious? Do we have it someplace in the between? Do we have it when we say, hey, well, let's get serious and get married? Like, when does that conversation happen?
Are you asking? You're asking me?
I'm asking everybody.
That conversation happens day. you know what? That conversation, I truly believe that it's situational. That conversation, if you are with somebody and you see something in them and you are attempting to grow with them, that's when the conversation starts. But if you're just dating, just to date, who cares? Like, if I'm just dating you and I don't see anything serious with you, then why am I talking to you about my money? You understand what I'm saying? Especially if I do not care how you spend your money, if I don't see any future with you and I'm just dating you just to pass the time away. But if I am with you and I'm looking long term with you, we have that conversation that day. Hey, sweetheart, I see something. I see this growing bigger than what it is right now. I see a future with you. Let's figure some things out so that way we can plan for a future. So that way we're not scrapping. You understand what I'm saying? Let's lay out a plan and let's stick to the plan, but make room inside that plan for other contingencies because things happen. As plans may be, plans will go awry. It is what it is. But that conversation happens the day you figure out if you're going to be serious with that person. You do not need to be behind the eight ball, especially in today's economy.
Day one. No, I'm just playing. But day one. I'm not saying that you have the full blown out, open up your checkbook. I'm dating myself. Let me see your bank account with your cash out. But what I am saying is have some conversations and throw out hooks or fillers to get certain information, right? So that's what I'm thinking about. And then also look at values and spending habits. You know what I mean? Look at someone's value, and then as it progresses, if there is a money issue there or there is money out there, you look at the type of money that it is. $30,000 of student loan debt that you are paying off is different than $20,000 of credit card debt from you shopping at Macy's and all these other different department stores. So that's different too. So I think initially, as you first start dating somebody, you just start looking at their habits and their values and how they operate when it comes to what they buy and what they spend with their money. You have a conversation, hey, you want to have a house one day? Oh yeah, I ain't thinking about no house one day. I ain't worried about that when I'm 40. Well, that may be a person who's not thinking on the same wavelength as you if you have a goal to maybe own property or to do certain things like that. So like I said, have the conversation earlier on. I think even before you get serious, because what happens when you get real serious with somebody, you're thinking about spending an eternity or lifetime with them or marriage, and then they like, I got $160,000 of student loan debt. Do you really want to take that on? So like for me, I'm married, but I would want to have that conversation even before I got to the point to where it was in debt. And like I said, conversation is not too intense. It's not too deep. I'm mostly looking at values and spending habits and different things like that.
I mean, if you pay attention, that'll tell you everything. Just pay attention.
Yeah, like if she working in McDonald's, but you know what I mean? She always like, come on, boo, let's go to the beach this weekend. Let's go do this. Let's eat out. Let's order Uber. And she's like, chick, you working at McDonald's. Like, you can't afford eating out. You can't afford this lifestyle.
Or if she's doing all of those things and expecting it to come out of your pocket.
Yeah. So it's like you gotta look at those things initially and early in the relationship.
I would add this to it too, right? Because when you really like somebody or you really love somebody, you love them, and sometimes you try to overlook some things that you shouldn't have to overlook. I think when it comes to finances, sometimes you got to be able to say, baby, you're more financial literate than I am. You handle the finances, or I'm more financial literate. And try to find a way to say it, of course, that's right. But let me handle the money. because if I don't handle the money and things go bad, you know, I want to be the one to blame. So because it would be ideal that everybody in this world is financially literate, right? And I'm not taking no responsibility away from somebody, but if we're in a partnership, the person that whose strength is finances probably need to be the one handling the finances. And that conversation, that could be a part of that conversation as we have it.
But I am taking the responsibility. I'm not going, baby, let me, baby, man. Nah, you jacked up. You dumb in this area. If I'm dumb in that area, take over. Because it's like we in the plane and I'm going to let you crash us? No, if we a team, already I'm taking over. I'm not sitting up there. I'm not pussyfooting around it. I'm going to get straight to it and say, look, you running us in the ground. You killing us right now. So at the end of the day, I'm better suited to manage this. We gonna come up with a plan. You gonna be involved in the plan, but this is how it has to work in order for us to survive. I can't sit up there and survive like this. And if you don't want to roll with the train, get off the train.
This is the part of the game where we cannot decide how to say it. We just have to say it. We cannot sugarcoat this aspect of it because this is an important aspect of it. Because if you look at the statistics, that's one of the many, that's one of the top 3 reasons why people split money. I'm not about to try to find a good way to say you suck with money. I'm just going to say, hey, I got this because you're not good at this. Move. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, but I got to cover this. I have to, because if I leave it to you, everything is going to crumble because you're not good at this. And you know you're not good at this. I'm sorry if it hurts your feelings, but it is what it is. This is one of those things where we got to be straight up. I do not believe in having important conversations and trying to find the way to say it. I am just going to say it. It is what it is.
And for the record, when I say find a way to say it, I'm talking to people who don't have good communication skills because you can destroy a conversation from the jump.
I get that.
So that's all.
I get
that's all I'm saying. Not everybody is the master of communication. So sometimes, I'm just putting that disclaimer out there because if you're not a good, if you don't know how to say what you got to say and make it come across to where someone can receive it,
No is a complete sentence. That's for starters.
That
And
part right there.
yeah, no is a complete sentence. That's for starters. And secondly, everybody has a degree of illiteracy. I mean, everybody has a degree of literacy. Illiterate is a degree of it. Um, I like to I like to say this in conjunction with it. I don't disagree with anybody's perspective when it comes down to having a conversation in the beginning, but when you have it all the time, right? I don't think you stop having this conversation because this is what I know. People will show you what they want you to see in the beginning so that you can believe that there's somebody that they're not. So you never stop having that conversation. Believe what a person says until their behavior show up. When their behavior show up, that's the truth teller. Believe that over the words. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some people who are struggling trying to get them to line up. It's just kind of like, getting, back in the days when you had the TV, you had to move the antenna so that right. They're trying to get it to line up. And I get it. That's a part of the maturation process. But for me to stick around while you're trying to line them up is my choice because it's my patience that is being put at stake. I think I went on a tangent on this on Wednesday night with Uncle Junior, man. Um, we struggle in the space of money. Money is not the problem. Relationship is the problem. Your relationship with money. So in most cases, I believe wholeheartedly that when you look at it, you can see a person may make a lot of money, but they don't have great relationships, which means they're really not good with money. They just got fortunate. And so what we believe in our minds is that, oh, this person is great with money. No, they're not. They had a talent, they had a skill, and it worked out for them. Like, and I don't want to call nobody name in particular, but I think we can think about 2 or 3 people right offhand, especially one who just recently got a divorce and paying like $200,000 a month for child support. So that's kind of like my point. Like, I want to make sure that I am completely transparent as I'm saying this. We're not talking about a money problem. We're talking about a relationship problem. How do you relate to finances? When you look at it, in most cases, that's indicative of how do you relate, period. So the way you view relationships is the concern. And when you go back and consider it and think into it, if you have to tell a person like you're bad with money, that is an indicator. I'm just being, I mean, you don't have to take my word for it, but lean back, do a wide scope view and think into it. And I bet you'll start seeing those trends as you look from person to person. But yes, this is a conversation that you don't just have in the beginning. It is a conversation that never ends. It's a continuous conversation that happens in time and space through the power, through the art of conversation and observation. So talk, observe. I'll be honest with you. We get together. You can show me, like, say, for example, you got $500,000 in the bank and you want to show it to me. I don't want to see it. I'm just being, I don't want to see it. That's yours. Put it away. Don't bring that to the table because that does not grandfather you anything with me. As far as I know, you probably had a relative die. You see what I'm saying? That doesn't tell me anything. I need to see who you are right now. If I see who you are right now, that's the thing for me. That's what's important. How do you behave when large sums of money come into the house? You know, do you act like this? Do you feel like you got to go and buy the latest and the greatest? Do we got to go buy another whip just because we got a large sum of money? No, we don't. No, we don't. So that's my point. And I think the issue is, and I think Chris, you brought it to the table, right? It's when it falls within the top three. You don't have the conversation, you're setting yourself up for problems. Just my thoughts. Um, man, listen, this has been a great conversation so far. And these, come on, let's shout out to the people in the chat, man. I mean, they're blowing it up. I think they were pretty much they were in concert with what we were saying, but there is a question I do want to get after. Mr. Kendrick James here. Question: what if one in the relationship is structured in finances and put a budget but can't stay focused for the future? So I want to make sure I'm clear. Are we talking about the person that's structured that can't stay focused, or the other person in the relationship can't stay focused on the budget that the structured individual brought to the relationship? You know what? Let's just answer both for the sake of time.
You know me.
I do.
You know what I am going to say.
What? Well, I want to hear it. I don't know what you're going to say.
If I structure a budget because I have an end game in place and we have a conversation about the end game that we have in place and we agree on the end game that we have in place, but you can't focus on the end game and keep your end of the bargain as a part of the plan, you will not be a part of the plan. I'm leaving you. Goodbye. You will not be a burden on my shoulders. That is not, no, absolutely not. I am not afraid of taking a loss. You gotta go. I love you. It is going to hurt. I'll probably ball up in the fetal position and listen to old school 90s R&B and cry a little bit. But at the end of the day, when it is all said and done, I did this for us. And if you could not focus on the plan for us, then there is no us. Bottom line. Goodbye.
Do I want to go after Chris? No, I'm gonna wait.
I bite that one. I'm just gonna say I'm gonna make an attempt to answer the question, right? To give an answer to it. And the other, at that point, you gotta take measures. You know, you invested into the relationship like that. Sometimes you gotta take measures that are uncomfortable for both parties, right? But definitely it's going to be uncomfortable for the unstructured one. So maybe I have to make sure that this is the account that we share, but this is the account all the money goes into, and I'm controlling that money. The money I put into the shared account, because I know my partner is not a healthy spender. So I'm going to, if I'm controlling the money, if I'm managing the money and I got the budget, I'm taking responsibility of the budget. If I'm going to make it, all right, bam. This is all I'm putting in there. Why that's all you put in there? Because you spending the money. This is the plan we made. You agreed with, especially if you agreed with the budget. If we sit down and we had this conversation and you knew what the plan was, now I'm going to make the changes I need to make necessary to make the plan work. And if you don't like me making the changes, well, then we got to make changes, because money, and not just money. Because I know we always talk about how money always lead to divorce and stuff like that, but we can't live on two separate planes. That is not life. Period.
But see, this right here, I do not believe that it is about the money itself. It is about you not taking responsibility of the money that we said that we were going to put together for a certain thing because we have a certain goal. If you are not responsible enough and accountable to yourself enough to do this, you cannot be a part of the plan, which means you cannot be a part of my life. Goodbye. And when you said control, I understood where you were coming from, because it is not about controlling the other person. It is about self-control. If you do not have enough self-control to stick to the plan that we have that's going to better everybody, bye. Get out the way, because I cannot have you here. As much as I love you and as much as I want you here, I cannot have you here. You are a burden. I have enough burdens as it is. I cannot have the person that I love be a burden on me as well. Goodbye. My
It's like
shoulders
when
are
you say
strong, but
goodbye.
I can't carry all of this.
Just so y'all know, I'm working on my Chris voice. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So I put a question in the poll. I need you guys to answer real quick. We got one more point. If you guys want us to continue with this last point, just answer yes or no. Right now, we got 3 yeses. To this question, I think I kind of answered it the last time, but I want to kind of put it in the context for this one. When it comes down to this right here, I think the ability to stick to the budget is the same thing as the ability to harvest and harness good relationship. So if you can't stick to the plan that we created for our future, then how are you going to stick for the plan that we created that is our future? So I don't see it being any different. Once you show me that you can't stick to the plan, the financial plan, then you're pretty much telling me that you're not going to be able to stick to the household plan, the plan between me and you. And at any given time, when it serves you, you're abandoning the plan as well as me. And before I put myself on the altar of your wants, I will put you on the altar of my future.
I mean, I ain't got nothing to say. Chris said it all.
Yeah, he
He
did.
said it with the Batman voice, but he said it all. Chris coming, I'm Batman.
Look,
Do your thing, man. But
you gotta remember the muscle shirt too. He got the guns out.
you
I'm
see
about to
that?
say, he
man.
wore the same.
Hey,
He wore the
and he
same
over there
shirt.
drinking that creatine and stuff. Now let me stop.
Suns out, guns
Hey.
out, baby. You know what time
Hey.
it is.
But at
He
the
got
end of
that
the
same
day,
T-shirt that Mr. T had on in Rocky 3.
man, that's the what Mike Tyson used to come out in. But I agree with Chris, man, because how you do one thing is how you do all things. It's not like you just got bad in this area and you just might. No, if this is who you are when it comes to our plan, whatever happens after this, you can always fall short. You can always succumb to pressure. You can, and if you want headaches and all that, hey, go for it. Go for it. You can change it. Change that person. But if you don't want it, nah, don't even try. I think you could do bad by yourself. I think that was one of them Tyler Perry movies or something like that. He said it, So,
So real quick, Chris, is that the first time, or was that after a grace period? Maybe you had a conversation and said, hey, look, you messed up. You remember what we said? Or you like, first time, you jack it up, hit the road, Jack.
I always give a little bit of grace. I cannot ask for something that I am not willing to give myself. I know I have shortcomings, and I am going to ask her to give me some grace. First time, shame on you for doing it. We are going to have a conversation. I refuse to patronize the quote unquote most educated group like they're children. I should not have to tell a grown up something more than once, especially if it is this important. Second time, shame on you because I told you what time it was. I told you what we needed to do, and you just went on and did what you wanted to do anyway, which shows a blatant and utter disrespect to me and to what we had going on. There will not be a third. Goodbye.
I think that was a mic
I-
drop.
Yeah. But if I can, just because the way my mind is thinking about this, if this is something that has arisen before we got too serious, for me, I don't have nothing else to talk about. Because once we get married, we got a lot more invested into it, you know, and the measures can change, right? Because you got your life invested into each other, right? Everything is shared, and it gets deeper. But if at the beginning you showed me that you have no care for us doing things as a unit, and we're quote unquote serious and talking about getting married, that's the time for the chopping block right there. I'm not waiting until we've jumped over that hurdle. Mm-mm.
Man, that boy
That's
got
just
some. Man, that boy got some heavy hands. Listen here. We got we got listen, unanimous vote. Everybody wants to continue with this last question. So I think we pretty much answered that one good. I hope we answered your question, brother. Again, great question. So lack of legal protection is the last one. Unlike marriage, cohabitation doesn't provide certain legal protections in the case of a breakup, such as the division of property, which can lead to potential issues. So the question that I'm going to go to is no, not that. I'm gonna go to the next one. If Emma and John decide to separate due to their disagreements, what challenges might they face due to the lack of legal protection in the division of their shared assets?
Are we in Texas or a common law state?
I'll comment later.
So now they,
Man, this
because
is
they weren't married before, were they? Now they married. They not. Oh, so just in case they need a just in case. If you already looking at just in case, just don't do it. I'm serious. If you're looking at it just in case, just don't even do it. But I think that because when you're looking at shared assets, I'm a person, hey, if you come with it, you can take it with you, whatever. A man, all he needs is his game system and his TV, and he good to go. But
And an air mattress,
right,
an air
he just
mattress, and a small refrigerator to put a few
facts.
beverages in, and
take
some
that
lunch meat. That is it.
All facts.
Wait, not just any air mattress. They got to have the automatic air pump because I ain't blowing
Yes,
that thing
sir.
up.
you
Oh,
gotta
no
have
Yes, sir. Yes,
No
sir.
doubt. The
That's
one you
the one.
plug up and hit the button. Yep.
Yeah, that's it. But I think that a lot of people go into it, well, I want this and I want that. If we don't do this, and you really making a planned exit, that's all you're doing. So that's why I say just don't do it. Because at the end of the day, if you respect one another, and I know sometimes when you're going through the divorce process, there is no respect. And a lot of times that happens on the female side. She want it all, and if you did something, you may be a dirt dog dude, but you saying okay, you can have this, and then once she see your lady and she see you happy, she want to tear you down even more. So at the end of the day, if you planning for the exit, don't go in.
The reason why I asked about the states, because there are certain states that after a certain amount of time, you got to start separating that property equally. So one person may come into a relationship with a whole full living room, dining room, all of these different things. that you may have been using your money to pay for at the same time while y'all was together. I watched a whole bunch of Judge Judy, just FYI. So, and with that being said, there's a whole bunch of people on there that being there in the same situation. But that's what happens. Now you're in there, y'all fighting over the dog, y'all fighting over the coffee machine, y'all fighting over all of these different properties, and a lot of times other family members can get drug into it because they start taking sides and different things like that. So I just think overall, man, just with one simple thing is the disagreement leading to the separation, and you may have to give up half of your stuff or some of your stuff that you may have brought into that relationship, because now y'all, after a certain amount of time in certain states, you're considered common law, and you guys are married, and now you guys got to split everything 50-50. So you might lose some of your stuff even though you ain't even married.
Let me tell you a quick story. It's going to be real quick. I used to do network marketing with a company called Mona V. It used to be a juice company. I was real close with my bronze level executive. He was earning about 50K a month. His wife decided that he was working too much and that she wanted a divorce. So what he did was he paid for the house, he paid for the cars, he paid for the kids' tuition, and he said that he was going to give her an additional $10,000 a month. Wrote it up, gave it to everybody, and said, "Okay, this is what we agreed upon." Do you know what the courts did? The courts gave her $30,000 a month because there was an extra $20,000 that did not have a home. So when y'all say that we are afraid of getting married and putting our assets together, that is not the case. We are afraid of divorce because we will get ran through the ringer. This is something that needs to be before we even decide that we are going to put assets in our name. If things dissolve, we need to come up with an agreement on how things are going to be split. We need to have my lawyer, your lawyer, and a third party mediator in there. So that way you can't say you signed something under duress and everything gets thrown out. That is one of the biggest, that's one of the biggest challenges. The fact that there is not a third party in the room to advocate for the neutral side and to see that both sides signed this agreement under sound mind and body. You understand what I'm saying? That is one of the biggest challenges.
And I know that to be true because that happened to me when I got divorced, and we're in there talking to the lawyers and everything, and her, that was a third party, came and said, "Well, you can get this much more." Like, dude, we done agreed to that. And he brought the ninja side out of me, the Detroit side out of me, because I'm like, you got on ran over shoes and you trying to tell her, like, come on, dude. And it's like, come on. And we had to tell him, and she was cool. And she said, no, we agreed on this, and this is what's gonna happen, and stuck to that plan. But all women won't do that. All people won't do that.
And
Yeah.
I used to
So
see this every Tuesday because I worked in the system. Y'all forget that. I used to run files from juvenile justice center to family court to municipal court to child support and back again. I used to see this all of the time. So I am not going to hold you. I am terrified. So I'm making sure that when I reach that point, all of my ducks will be in a row.
So disclaimer, right? We know we got the greatest women in the world in this group. So we're not talking about y'all specifically, right? Don't come for me, Chris. I'm just
Really?
I heard your background noise. I was like, here you go.
Y'all
That was
too.
me
Y'all
muting
too.
my mic so you can talk.
Hey, hey, sometimes you got to put a disclaimer, man. So, nah, but if any young men get to hear this, right, you have to understand what is being said here, right? Because not the women on this panel or in this group on our chat, but the other women. a lot of them have a hard time coming to mutual agreements. And so, yeah, don't bother me. and so, and so when Chris talk about taking that L, statistically, it is always is almost always the man that has to take that L, right? So understand why this conversation gets passionate, but there's a part that Roland mentioned that I don't think a lot of people realize. Yes, it's wise to have a third party, but if you have a third party counsel, by law, he has to tell that woman what she can get, regardless of what y'all agreed to when you came in there. He has to tell her that she could take you to the cleaners. And if the breakup was on bad terms, trust me, she gonna at least consider it if she don't take it. All right. So this is why you have to have these conversations ahead of time. And it's not just to protect men, it's to protect all of us in relationships, because men might leave the relationship with more financial burden than they went into it, but women are going to leave with more heartache and you can see the heartache through the way they drag the man, even when he didn't do half the stuff they said he did, but their emotions were tied up into that relationship. And so for both of us, we need to have these conversations early and often, because everything we have is tied into it. And according to the legal system, if you're married, everything you have is tied up into it. From your car to your dog to, what was the song? You can have it all: the house, the cars, the kids, and the dog. Right? But that's what it's like to split. So to flip it back to this scenario, when we talk about the court system. So when we talk about cohabitating and you're not married, oh yeah, see, now we get into some, because everybody feels like they should be able to leave this relationship comfortable because we're not married, but you share a lease or you share a mortgage if you was crazy enough to buy a house with someone you ain't married to. And now how do we split this house? We're gonna leave it in who name? And if we sell it, who's gonna take the overhead? Am I getting the extra, or you getting extra? We splitting it down the middle, or am I doing it? So it's so much that you have to consider. So I said all that to say what Roland said in the beginning. Just don't do it. Wait till you're married. I was dumbing up. I did it once, and it was rough.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement. With the exception of one thing, I don't believe that one person or the other has more of a heartache. Because in that essence, what we're saying is one person's feelings are a little bit more significant than the other. And like we said before, it's not that men don't have emotions; we just display them differently. So I think for most of us who've been through that and have lost their entire family, you know how most men are. That's pretty much our identity: provide and protect. When you take what I'm providing for and what I'm protecting away, then who am I at that point? So yeah, I don't necessarily subscribe to that, but everything else, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. Listen, I just want to thank you guys for sticking with us a little bit longer tonight. Man, you guys are still hanging in there. You guys are just awesome. I do want to dive into these final thoughts real quick. Ask these gentlemen to be short real this evening, because we're at 1 hour and 47 minutes and counting. So with that being said, I'm just going to start on that side. We're going to start with that side. I'm sorry. That side. We're going to start with the Unc, and then we're just going to swing it around like a pendulum. So Unc, Chris, then son of Timothy, and then poor man. I'm gonna just leave it at poor man. All right. So that being said, Unc, Unc, you up, bro?
All right, man. Appreciate it. Hey, so final thoughts for this evening. We're talking about relationship builders or breakers. At the end of the day, there are going to be a lot of different things that's going to happen in the scope of a relationship. The sooner you have certain conversations about the essential things that you need to go forward with the relationship, the better the relationship can potentially be. So at the end of the day, I'm going to end with have the conversations that you need to have. Make sure that they're effective, and making sure that all of the information that's been shared back and forth between both parties are fully understood by both parties before you move forward. That's all I got.
What Uncle Junior said. That's my final thought. I completely agree with that. Have the conversation, have it early, have it often, and make sure that the plan is the plan. And if the plan needs to change, make sure that there's room for that, but the plan still be the plan. If the other party cannot get with the plan and is not responsible enough to get with the plan that's going to better everybody, then you must not be afraid of taking a loss, because you taking that loss is going to, them being in the way of the door and you moving them out of the way is going to open that door up for something else to come into your life that may be beneficial to you. But have the conversation, talk, and talk a lot, because this is important. That's my final thought.
Oh man, have the conversation. Everybody said that already, right? So I want to just drive that one more time so it's hammered in. But if in the conversation you have discovered that there are some issues that need to be ironed out before we take the next step in this relationship, sometimes you just got to admit you might not be able to do it. I might not be the right teacher to teach you financial literacy. We might need to go outside and find a financial counselor to sit us down and teach us both. Though I may be literate in it as a single person, or you might be more literate as a single person when it comes to finances, but let's sit down with a financial counselor so we can both learn the same thing and try to build the same habits so we have the same mind, right? Because I'm all about unity. It's a oneness. Is a relationship growth is not about two or three. So don't be afraid to seek outside help, man. Whatever the issue may be, finances or whatever.
At the end of the day, we talk about communication, and we're talking about money, and we're talking about these couples and them trying to grow together. And if the objective is to grow together, then we got to know one another. So it's just like having a baby. If you have a baby and you smell something, you check. If it's something wrong, if it's soiled or something going on there, you remove the pamper, you remove the whatever's on the baby, you clean it up. So you got to get to the point in your relationship where you say, man, something is stinking, and I'm not just going to let it just sit there and stink. I'm going to say what it is. And at I can't be afraid to voice my opinions, voice my concerns, afraid that you're gonna get mad and all that. I don't even care if you get mad, because I'm telling you something stinks and I don't like it. So at the end of the day, we got to make sure that we're communicating how we actually feel, not walking around, well, baby, if you did this and if you did that. No, you messing up right now. You're messing up our program. And if we came with a plan and you going against the plan, are we really on the same team? Are we working together? And if not, if we're working separately and you doing your thing, I'm doing mine, maybe we just need to be separate. Because before we jump in this boat and we say, hey, we are legally married and we're doing what is right in the eyes of the almighty United States of America, are we going to say this is a team effort and we're going to actually do what the team needs to do? Because if we say our standard is biblical, then it's a standard that the Bible will work itself out. If we just say we make it up as we go, we got to have our own plan. We got to make sure that it's not our parents' marriage. It's not Junior and them across the street marriage. It's not my grandmother or aunties. This is our marriage. And how is this marriage going to benefit us so that we can benefit multiple people and be an example to others to follow, not for them to run away from?
Man, listen, I don't want to reiterate what was already said. I believe that everybody is entitled to having a phenomenal life. But if you don't plan that life out, then you just plan for that life to fail in some shape, form, or fashion. Don't make life harder than it has to be, right? Do the things that you heard these brothers just talk about. Take your time and make the appropriate decisions. Stop rushing to the finish line. Like I said before, you really want to know my answer? Get into the program. We talk about it in great detail. Not only did we talk about it in great detail, we literally help people plot the course to great relationships. And I think that's really what we need to do. It's something that should have been taught in the home. We got it. And it's very difficult to teach something that wasn't taught to you. We got it. But at the end of the day, we have to make the decision now to have open and honest conversations with ourselves so that we can be better for the generation that comes behind us. So, that being said, we just want to thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight again. Like, share, subscribe, share it with other people, share it with your nieces, your nephews, your sons, your daughters, your cousins, your in-laws, your outlaws. Just share it. That's all you got to do. Just share it, because again, the information is out there, and it is our desire to help you from the bottom of my heart. So with that said, on the behalf of these esteemed gentlemen, you guys have a phenomenal rest of your evening and a fantastic weekend. And we will see you next Friday here on the Hearts of Men podcast.